Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Bite Size Branding live show. Very exciting show today. Why? Because we've got Grant in transit. Grant in transit today on today's show. Also, you'll notice that a lot of different backgrounds. Obviously, Grant is a car, and this is 𝚘𝚠's new office here. So I'll describe it for people who are listening. That is Anthony. Anthony is the senior designer here, and you see all the nice lined up computers in our new space, which is super exciting. And hopefully Grant's going to be coming down soon to kind of visit us and check it all out, check out the new digs. Why? Because he's jealous. He doesn't like to be cut out of anything.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure he's a part of everything.
Absolutely.
Because what would we do without him? And before we go too far, we'd like to welcome Nancy to the show. And this is Nancy's first time on the show. Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me here.
It's our pleasure. We were thinking, who are we going to guest on the show, and who better than Nancy True? And as always, I have Grant, my right-hand man, co-host of the show, joining us as well. And some exciting news before I kick it over to Grant is Nancy's going to be joining us on our Meet Your Brand Parents tour later this year. So you're going to be able to meet her face to face. She's going to be there doing what she does best, creating content, which is what we're going to be talking about today. She's going to be recording, shooting things, and giving some advice to everybody that attends. So that's really exciting. But before we get into more about Nancy, because that's what the show is all about, I'm going to fire it over to Grant to tell everyone how the show is going to break down today. Ooh, Grant, my man. See, I think he might have.
Well, you're breaking up at the moment, but anyway, I just wanted to say that welcome to the show, welcome to the tour, Nancy. Loved having you on the tour. But anyway, guys, my name is Grant Tom, and I'm the head fire starter of the group. And what I basically do is I love getting ideas to get ignited and launched and started. And one of the things that I think is fantastic is that I've worked with Nancy, and I think that she is a fantastic contributor to the team. So once again, we're looking to unbundle her knowledge and her expertise and just how effective we can make our content generation with her advice and help today. So look forward to it. So guys, over to you.
Awesome. And yes, Grant may come and go because he is in transit, but eventually he's going to get onto his laptop once he gets back into the office. This is the exciting world of live feeds. And to keep the mix going, I didn't move a stand for the phone when I move, so I'm going to be doing these ones again. These little, just lifting it up slowly at the bottom of the screen every now and then. So welcome to the it's a very inventive show today. So do I, man. I got to sit there like this awkwardly for a minute just holding up a phone. It's weird. It's a weird thing to do. But
I forgot to add one thing, Bernard. I forgot to add one thing.
Yes, tell us.
The show is normally 5-minute segments, Nancy, but because we have a guest, we have 2 extra minutes. So you're just going to give us your knowledge, and of course, Bernard and I are going to interrupt you as much as we can.
There you go, mate. Doesn't miss a beat. Cool. Let's before we jump into it, I'm going to fire it back over to Nancy. Nancy, tell everyone a little bit about your background and what you've been up to, so everyone can get to know you a little bit. Oh, Jesus, this show is a special show. special. Nancy, over to you.
Oh, good. I like to add my magic. So just a little bit of background. Where do I start? It's a long journey. I've been in photography for, way over a decade now. And I've been doing filmmaking for over half a decade, shooting movies, short films, feature films, web series. So I've done quite a variety, I guess. It's a creative at heart, and a photographer exhibited pretty much all around Sydney at the moment, and eventually the world. So that's my biggest goal. But currently as well, I'm actually loving the project management position at 𝚘𝚠, which I work alongside with Bernard, and filming content for Meet Your Brand Parents as well with Grant alongside. So I'm really excited for the tour that's going to be happening very, very shortly.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Can't wait.
So super pumped. It's going to be a great little tour. Sydney, Newcastle, Melbourne, Brisbane. So if you're in any of those cities, there might be a couple of you. Make sure you're there. And we have some cool stuff that we're going to feature there. We have special guests for every single show. Like it's going to be gangbusters. So make sure you make it if you can, and if you can't, wait for the next one, I guess. No. There is no other one. It's exclusive. You must make it. Cool. Let's fire into it. We got a couple of really cool questions that we put together just before the show. And the first one we really want to talk about is, I think, really the crux of where people might get caught up when putting together their content piece. And it's all about how do they form their brand story using content as the driver for that. So how do they talk about their brand? How do they create that followership? How do they create that community around their brand? And then make sure there's that level of continuity, that image that they're trying to assemble or create in the market. A bit of a long-winded question because I often ramble. No, but yeah. Yeah,
100%.
wait, hold on a second. Let me just do
go.
this. Just like awkwardly put this up and do that, and now you can go.
Cool. So technically, when it comes to branding, the first thing I always share with a lot of my clients is that I'm not your typical photographer, filmmaker, where I just come in, snap it, then disappear. What I do is also image consulting. So one of the key things when it comes to having a brand and creating your content online is actually finding what is unique to you. So sometimes the small things, like for example, today, my lipstick is red. And that's kind of one of the most iconic things a lot of people recognize me for in a lot of things. Sometimes I do kind of not have the red lips and I just go pretty much, chilled, but it very depending. It's more that personality that you get across the videos.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty much where some people do stage it. I just go authentic and just be myself, because I think authenticity definitely now is pretty much the way to go. Same with when you want to share your stories, if you want to sell, is by heart and authenticity. So coming back to what you're mentioning, when it comes to creating your content, explore. Then, as I've been hanging around with Grant and Bernard, the biggest key things is also color. Having a branding color.
Not this color.
Yeah,
very
not
blue
the
today. I don't know why, but
the alien blue. Same with for example, the utility colors is that, that green, the orange, it stands out, is very recognizable. For myself, I'm pretty much very simple as a photographer, which is black and white, sometimes with a speck of red in it. It's transitioning, and keep in mind, it does evolve. Every brand will evolve. So your first video, your first content isn't going to be perfect. And honestly, one of my mentors that I hold dear, he shares that if you love your first video, then there's something wrong. As you continue making your videos, they need to be better and better. So we can get stuck in a perfectionism of having to make everything perfect on our first video. The first step is just to pretty much, you can just pick up your phone, because everyone has that tool now.
And Graham and I were exactly the same. Like our first bits of content, if you watch anywhere from 1 up to 25 or 24, that stuff was pretty shocking. We tried to pre-record it. We tried to make sure that it was perfect. We re-record, edit, and to be honest, it was terrible. This stuff now is so much better, and it literally lends to what you just said. It's authentic. We're talking off the cuff to questions we just come up almost on the fly. So we capture that real natural conversational style, and also that immediate knowledge, that immediate goal that's front of mind. So so literally kind of following that methodology. And this took a long time to put together. Now we're up to what shows 60 something or somewhere around there, or 70 something. And actually, I could just check right here. It says it right in the title. But it took a long time to develop the maturity of the show and how we wanted to structure it. So definitely, and I think a lot of people get writer's block or performance block. It just get started. That's the thing that we always say. Just start with something, and you can then build from there.
And here's a little tip I'll love to share, a little bonus tip, is that even if you don't want to do it yourself, get someone else to do it with you. Because having that conversation, instead of just by yourself, you get stuck and don't know what to do. Having a conversation like what we're having, for example, like this beautiful podcast that we're having right now, we can actually bounce off, and more ideas come with collaboration. You're not on your own because there's so many of us out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we put guests on the show. Like originally we didn't have any guests, and then we started putting guests and more guests. And the shows that we actually find are the strongest are the ones that have multiple guests on them. So two guests, or sometimes, 5. We've had some with 4 guests, 5 of us all together. And those shows are always the strongest ones. They're the most enjoyable, the most conversation goes around. So multi-guest, it makes it interesting, and it makes it a lot easier for conversation to flow.
And as well, for content creators or people who are aspiring, having a topic that you want to explore and finding an expert to bring on board does help, because you learn from them as well as you get to expose yourself to their audiences, as well as vice versa. So this is all pretty much what I like to call a network of collaboration. And we work together to help each other out. And this is what I like to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like it adds a level of credibility to what you're saying. If somebody else is also saying it, or somebody else supports or can add another dimension to what you're saying, it definitely adds that next level to it. And I think a lot of people feel like it might lessen their screen time or impact their level of credibility. But what we've always found is it adds more value, and adds more value to the listener. And in the end, that's what you're producing it for. It's not for yourself.
100%. And one thing I like to add, because I know for a female, we can be a bit more zhuzh on the style. Even men can do it too. I have a friend, he loves wearing his business suit with this unique cowboy hat.
Oh, yeah.
And that's his style. Even on set, when it comes to film sets, like we all wear black because we're technically ninjas behind set. We kind of do have to be. I have this mate of mine. He wears this big wide brim Aussie hat, and he gets recognized throughout a lot of different sets because he's created an icon for himself.
Like
He's
the
created
Molly
something-
Meldrum effect.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
Molly
pretty
Meldrum?
much.
Yeah, good. I was
Yeah,
like, ooh, I
100%.
wonder. Yeah.
So find something that resonates with you. Sometimes you can stick with it, and you can always evolve for it.
There's a minute.
Yeah, I know.
And Grant disappeared on us because he must have gone in the lift or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then, would you? I remember one person in my network that had a color palette, and they'd always work with like blues to teals, and all their footage would be in that kind of realm, blues to teals. And he'd always shoot it either in his home or on the beach. Do you think, is there a level that's like too constrictive? Like, would you say that could even hinder the creative process, or like where's your feeling towards that?
I would say consistency is also a good thing for the audiences, especially depending on if you're a traveler and you do travel blogs or videos. Of course, you want to have different backgrounds. Sometimes with certain topics, you want to keep it simple and clean. So little tips and tricks, you can do it for yourself. Having lighting is important. I know I like to go over time, but I want to give you the tips, but
That's
it's
all right.
time's up.
We'll give the tips at in one of the later questions. No problem. I think tips
Sure.
is super important. We're gonna put Grant back in here. He's just connecting. Boom. He's in. The
Welcome
man
back.
is back. Cool. So we
I
just
can
finished
hear
up
you
that
better now. I
last.
can hear every word Nancy said.
Oh, perfect. So we just finished off that question literally just then as we log back in. But one of the golden nuggets is just what was kind of cool actually in the last thing that you said is that when you do the tips and tricks, it's nice to have that continuity. And I think it's because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because then people focus on you rather than stuff that's around you. If every time it's an exciting new background, then it detracts from the conversation piece. But then, certain things like a food or a travel blog obviously is going to require, and people are looking for something new and different every single time. And then obviously picking your color palette, picking an item that creates your brand, becomes your brand icon. People recognize you by it. It becomes the piece that you can then hang your hat off. A lot of hat references as your personal brand as you build your content. Cool. I don't know if Grant can add anything if he wants to do a little wrap up, even though he didn't hear the last couple of minutes, or do you want to jump into the next question?
I think there's a lag.
Yeah, there's definitely a lag. Welcome to Melbourne. Awesome. Let's jump into the next question. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to pre-plan your content. I think a lot of people, like we said before, get a bit of a writer's block or a content block, and they're trying to perfect it, and they never really get past that moment where they're like, I have really important things to say. I just don't know how, when, where, how, why, etc. Cool. I'll hit the timer. Ciao. Hey, there
Awesome.
it is.
So pretty much how to pre-plan your content. The one thing I have learned is always like write a table of contents. As you walk around, we all have a phone. You can use the recording. I have a friend who loves to carry an actual voice recorder because he gets random ideas as he goes for a walk. So he'll record it as he speaks, and then he'll give it to his VA to transcribe it. And then that works into a blog for him. So there are many ways of jotting ideas because sometimes ideas you can't just sit here and just magically
come to me.
appears. Yeah. It comes in the most random and also beautiful moments in life. And that's why it's best to jot them down, which I do sometimes as well. Not the best, but that's what I like to do. Another way of also creating your content, it kind of relating to the first question, is a mood board. So for people who aren't sure how to start, I like to do a mood board because when you have a mood board, you just pick out pictures or images that you're drawn towards, and then that will allow you to have a color palette. That will also allow you to have the style, the feel, and the mood that you want to exhibit to your audiences or what you want to show, really. So pre-planning is actually really, really important because it will help also fill in the slots on the days you may have creative blocks, or as Bernard said, writer's block. I guess for me, when I've worked with a lot of clients, I do like to say, write down a lot of different topics, even just headings. Would help. You don't need to write a whole book with all the paragraphs and all the details. You just need the general topic, which is pretty much, if I was to break it down, like similar to today, when asking these questions, I had a bit of an idea, but I just needed just a topic, and then I can expand them. Because when you share what you know, you're already an expert because it's from you.
Yeah.
So. And this is another thing I also notice as well from my own experience. I'm going to call the elephant out in the room, where sometimes we have imposter syndrome and we definitely do have doubts. When you write something in a topic and you focus on that, it will help eliminate that. And that's why sometimes just pre-recording, sitting down, you don't have to do a live. Sometimes you can just pre-record it and then chop it up and post it up, because you can just sit back, relax, have a conversation with a friend, or do it yourself, whatever works for you. But in the end, preparing, I always love, same with what most personal development and also goals are. If you don't have a goal, you don't have a direction, you're going to be directionless, and it's just going to flop really quickly and easily.
Like, what do you want to get out of it, essentially?
Yeah. So here's a little tip for pre-plan content. So what's the topic you want? What is the audiences you want to go for? And how long is your content do you want? And what medium do you want to put it on?
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to add at this point is that this is a fine time for edutainment to take place, because you've got to educate and you've got to entertain, and therefore you can't be self-conscious. And you've got to then, like Nancy said, get at all those themes, all those ideas, but at the same time, make it a little bit of entertaining, because people like to be entertained. They don't want to be sold to. They want to keep on watching. They want to see the next step. They want to see how outrageous you can be. And at the same time, you still want to educate the value that you bring them. This is a fantastic show because it's all about the entertainment.
100%. And also I love to add, like from what Grant said, is that not everyone's going to be your audience. I just want to put that out there. Not everyone's going to be your audience. If you're a person who just wants to be a bit more quiet and it's more fact focused or a certain tone and way, you're going to attract that type of audience than the people who are very exuberant and out there. So just honestly, the way I've learned is just be you, because you're not for everyone and not everyone's for you. Have fun. There is always going to be someone for you in the end.
Well, I think that's it, right? Don't try and be anything that you're not, and really just live and breathe the message and the positioning that you're creating. And then people will align with that, right? The people who
100%.
are that more analytical or that more detail oriented will want to see your content. And we were even talking about it earlier today, where there's so many how-tos on the internet around our industry, and they're not actual how-tos. They don't really tell you how to do it. They kind of tell you the subject matter and what it's about. They don't really actually go into the nitty-gritty of like how to get it done. And so there's definitely truth to that. There's different strokes for different folks, as they say. And I like the thing that you said before as well. I think comedians have the same philosophy, right? Always walk around with a notepad and pen, because you never know when something's going to pop into your mind.
100%.
Yeah.
Inspiration is literally everywhere around you, and surprisingly enough within you as well.
You know, much like with comedians, and I think if you look at most content, it kind of hangs its hat on the same methodology, that it's a social criticism, like critique, not criticism, critique. So you actually look at the world and go, okay, well, what if this was different? How could it be better? How could it, what could impact it? What could be different? And putting your opinion out there. And I think those pieces seem to have a lot of influence, a lot of strength in market. People pay attention because it's something relatable.
Oh, 100%.
Grant, you're going to unfreeze now? No.
I'm just trying to keep the background noise out of the show so that... we still got a whole minute. Man, this is awesome. So basically, what I think is important is that anything can be subject matter, and anything can be designed into a recipe that works for you. I think you're quite right. You don't have to always be loud and proud. Sometimes you can be quite reserved and quiet. It's about the value of the conversation to the points that you raise that ultimately is the recipe for ongoing conversations.
Love it.
Beautiful. So well said.
And remember, not every recipe is going to be for you.
Correct.
Find the right recipe that works for you. But you need to explore.
But you must also go into your discomfort sometimes.
Yeah.
Yay.
Mate,
on time.
Perfect. We even got the rap in there and everything. That and you're right. And you won't always get the recipe right. No matter how well you follow it, you won't always get it right. I'd even say, like, for example, our social media content we've decided to step back from, because though we post on the regular, we kind of follow the schema. It's never really rendered anything for the business. So though it's good for the brand positioning, it hasn't really impacted our relationship with the clients that we have. So, it's not just producing content for content's sake and being on the channels for being on the channels. It's actually producing the content in the right places that are effective for what you need it to do to deliver an outcome, which can and in saying that, can be hard to perceive before you actually try.
But this is that old analogy. Give people what they want. Don't give them what you think they want. So therefore, you've got to listen. You've got to look at the trends, and you've got to find your groove, and then be able to be part of that evolving and creating your unique talent in the sense of bringing it forward. So, give people what they want.
100%. And the one other thing I love when you want to give people what they want is that just research is just as valuable, but sometimes just ask them directly.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, or even market testing. Put something out and see what the response is. You can sit there banging your head against the wall for months, saying, "Oh, I just don't think it's right. I don't think it's right." Or, "Do you think people will listen?" And people can advise, but until they see the product, they're not even really sure. So put the product out there.
But a huge tip. Here's a huge tip: ask 100 people you don't know. Don't ask 100 people you do know. Ask people you don't know, because they won't hold back. They will tell you for how they see it and perceive it.
That's true, because there's no emotional connection there. Not going to hurt your feelings. Cool. Well, Nancy, you got started on something before, which I said we can talk about that later, and all about how to do it yourself. How do people kind of take what we've told them so far and apply it in their content production? Obviously there's a lot of pieces to it. Cameras, lighting, etc. What are some quick, golden tips that people can take home with them and apply to start their content journey. And let me see. Yeah. Oh,
We
whoops,
need
it's
the
not in the camera.
timer.
There it is.
Yep, perfect. So first step. I'll break it into 5 things that you really need to do. The
Oh,
first
cool.
step is your camera. We all have a phone. There is pretty much almost no excuse anymore, unless you literally don't have a phone with a camera, that you cannot film or photograph on. So the first one is just get it out, pop it on a tripod. If you don't have a tripod, there's called a stack of books. If you don't have a stack of books, there is called boxes. There's always a way.
Or if you're Bernard, just
Or
hold it up like this.
bricks.
Or bricks. So there's always a way to set it up right in the right height. Now, when it comes to camera angles, this is the second tip, is also about the angles. Think about the background and the angle you want to go for. For example, a lot of people I notice love to put their cameras this low and shoot up their nose. Not exactly the greatest look. My little tips and tricks I always work with a lot of my clients is the 45-degree magic. When it comes to a camera angle, which I pretty much set it up similar, it's just, this one's not as much, but sometimes a bit more higher. This is kind of more what they call the magic of the 45, the most flattering angle for most people. When it comes to filming and photographing. I'm sharing the trade secrets. But anyway.
Trade secrets.
I don't mind. My passion is to actually have better photos, better images, better content out there in the world. So 45 degrees is actually a beautiful angle and flattering for everyone. Now, third one is lighting.
That 45 up or down?
45. Yeah, 45 up. From you up.
Up. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. So you're looking slightly upwards.
Yeah. Or the camera was pretty much looking down at you.
It's looking down at you. Got it. Got it. It does actually look very different.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's why. I'm just using my laptop today, guys. So sometimes we have to make do what we have.
Yeah. At least her laptop looks better than mine right now.
Yeah, because I angled it. That's why I had to run around to just get it to happen. Like I said, make it happen no matter what. The third one is also lighting. Lighting is everywhere. The biggest source of light is the sun. Nature. So even if you don't have any other lights, you have the sun.
Yeah.
Okay, not in Melbourne. Not in Melbourne.
Yeah. Or Sydney recently.
Except for you do have a bonus because direct sunlight has harsh lighting, whereas you have a big softbox, as they call it, and the film and photography speak. Where it's
that is so true. So true.
You're a big softbox. You are.
Yeah, you just have a permanent softbox. So you can play around even with direct sunlight. I would generally suggest going into something with a shade or a reflector. It's going to a bit more technical terms here. I'm always willing to share tips and tricks with people and be open to guiding you to having the best light. Having downlights in this room, I've actually positioned myself that I have a window. So I have these lights up above in this office and I have windows. And the way I've pretty much set it up is allowing that light to fill in and that to come down. So it's somewhat even, not my best at the moment, but I'm working with exactly what I have right now.
Which is a good tip, right? So people could position themselves in the office. Like for me, right, too harsh. I've got this like shadow across here because I don't have any natural light where I'm sitting, so I can't offset it with.
You're looking very pale, very pale.
Me?
And you're also like using your screen. You're using the blue light screen to.
That's why. Oh.
Yeah, that's one of them. And also, technically, it's offsetting the orange behind you, just saying.
That's why.
Yeah. So
everything makes sense now.
So not to go into too much details, but the angles, so camera is one, having the angle of the camera is another one, the lighting is a third. The fourth one is honestly kind of a background as well. You need to kind of keep in mind what you have in your background. And like you don't want to have a rubbish bin if you're out and about or stuff, which when I was filming for the brand parents, doing my best to avoid it as much as I can, because sometimes certain areas did have certain mess and we can't always and we can't always clean it. So you need to keep in mind what you have in the background as well, because sometimes, as Bernard did mention prior, You don't want too much in the background that it distracts what you are sharing to your audience, unless it is related to the background. That's why I kept mine pretty clean today. And the fifth one actually, get it done. Because everyone likes getting hooked up on the, oh my God, what? And it's like, yeah, the last one's get it done. Action.
Yeah. So the last one's a slap
Make
down.
it happen.
It's a mic drop.
Pretty much.
She's like, and after all that good advice, just get to work.
It's kind of like you just need to press the record button.
Yeah. Here's your nudge.
That's pretty much. Yeah.
Very cool.
Basically, there's no excuse. Everyone's got a camera on their phone. Just start filming. Just forget about your self-confidence and being self-righteous. Just get out there and just put it out there, because at the end of the day, people just want the content.
Yeah. And
I've always found sound is a big deal, right? Like if it sounds good, then people pay attention. If they don't, no matter how good the video is, it's hard for people to key in.
Yeah, I thank you so much for the reminder, because I actually do that innately. Whereas for me, it's like I'm very visual, so a lot of the things I am very particular with. And yes, sound is also another key. Having a lapel that you can have, or even a mic right now, so that I'm not competing in the distance with my laptop where it can cut out if I'm too far back. So making sure that you have, I would say, the checklist: camera, lights, sound, and backdrop.
Action. Oh, backdrop.
Backdrop.
And then action.
And then action. And then action.
Oh, that's where I came from. Right. Camera.
So hopefully these tips, you can start doing it by yourself, for yourself in the beginning. And of course, as you want to improve the production, that's where you want to invest in different type of equipment and invest in consultants and, of course, professionals, depending on how far you want to go. But this is the tips and tricks for how you can get started.
And that would be like if content is really driving some kind of channel in your business, especially like consultants, we find like often do that. Or if you start a program, or some kind of online program, the nicest way to kind of will people into it and to even teach the program is on pre-recorded.
Yes.
Oh, the timer stopped, guys. Look, just started again. You know what we do? Like a special.
Oh, and there's also little tips and tricks as a bonus.
I'll allow it.
Bonus is that sometimes if you're indoors, you're welcome to use the lighting you have, a lamp, or even just a statue in the background to make it look a little bit better.
Hey.
Or a painting, whatever floats your boat.
Use something to kind of balance out the starkness of a wall.
Yes.
Got it. This was like a fire shot episode. Just blitzed it. Blitzed it through the three questions.
Same with LED lighting. You can always add color.
Yes, we did that in our Meet Your Grandparents content.
Meet the Grandparents, absolutely. Yeah, that worked so well.
Because we just had white walls in the background. Yeah.
Oh yeah, adding color makes things.
Next time we just paint the walls like this. Grant, mate, do you have any last words to wrap this baby up?
Look, Nancy, first of all, it's been fantastic to just see you again. I can't wait to work with you again. I am going to be coming over to the Sydney office soon, hopefully next week. I want to come and have a look. I can't wait for Meet the Grandparents to get started. I just want to start rolling those out in all the various cities and just talking to the business owners about their brands. But I think with all the points that you've raised today have really been a valid contribution towards how everyone can participate and not hold back, with the view of starting to build profiles, starting to build presence, starting to build content that can have generation for them and their team, that can be enhancing towards the brands that they hold and have. And I think that you've really contributed so much value today. So thank you for that. It was so good to see you today.
You're welcome.
Awesome, Grant. That was great. And yeah, thank you, Nancy. Just echoing what Grant said. It's great to have you on the show. I think we want to get everyone on the team kind of on here, sharing some of their gold nuggets. We'll have to talk to Cam and Berta and Anthony and throw them all in the in the gauntlet. But thank you so much, and excited to do the tour. Everybody that's following along, like, comment, share. Please give us ideas, questions, controversial things that you want us to unbundle on the show. And if you have any guests in your network that you think would be valuable to feature, would love to feature them too. So reach out to us. We're on every channel. And when you're, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks' time.
Take care, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks, everyone.
Grant.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Grant the Nomad.
Yeah, the Nomad, the moving visual.
That's it. Awesome. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Bye.